Kepa, clearly not liked by Frank Lampard. Two names seem to have risen to the top, Gab. You've got Onana at Ajax and Henderson at Sheffield United.
So between those two, I mean, I think, first of all, let me say, Kepa played the last few games, including the game against Everton in the league. It looks like the worst is over there in terms of the relationship between him and Lampard. And I think also from Chelsea's perspective, I think they only give up on Kepa if the relationship with Lampard is indeed healed, and it looks that way, if they have a buyer. They're not going to keep him on the bench. And I think it's very hard because most top clubs aren't looking for a goalkeeper right now. That said, if you had to pick between Henderson and Onana, I would lean Henderson. But you know what? Henderson means you have to deal with Manchester United. We're going to be extremely reluctant to sell him to a Premier League rival. Henderson has said he doesn't want to sit on the bench behind David De Gea. So personally, I think you're better off with Onana. I think that seems to be easier. But I still think Kepa's going to stick around.
Shaq?
Listen, I like both goalkeepers. I think Onana's still a little bit raw and a riskier choice if you're Chelsea. But Henderson, as attractive an option as he may be, Gab is absolutely right. I'm not sure that, Manchester United necessarily want to let him go, given David De Gea's own struggles. Whether you can get David De Gea off your books is another question that only Manchester United can answer, because they'll probably have to pick up a part of his wages. And if you're Henderson, again, given how good you've been for Sheffield United, you understand why I'm not just going to go back to Old Trafford and sit on the bench while you figure out what you're doing with David De Gea. So it's a tricky one for Chelsea to negotiate, where they're not really holding that many cards.
Sticking with Chelsea and who they could spend money on in the summer, Leon Bailey, £85 million. A lot of clubs chasing him, Gab, but apparently it's Chelsea that's leading the way at the moment.
All right, with all due respect to Leon Bailey, I think these numbers are crazy. 85 million for Leon Bailey when Jadon Sancho, who is younger and a lot more talented, in my opinion, can be had for not much more than that. Personally, I see this as one of those stories that gets put out there. Obviously, Chelsea are chasing Jadon Sancho along with a host of other clubs, and all of a sudden, these stories go out. Oh, but what if they went for Bailey instead? And then, maybe that lights a fire under some people. But for me, I don't see it. I wouldn't spend that kind of money on Leon Bailey.
Sticking with players that could be leaving Bayer Leverkusen, it's interesting because Peter Bosz has come out talking about the future of Kai Havertz and said we can't hold on to him next summer. It will be a transfer of over 100 million euros. In the business, it's about developing talents and selling them on. With at least 100 million, we'll try to strengthen ourselves in 3 or 4 positions. 100 million, Gabs, a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. He's a very, very talented player. I think he had a rough start to I'd say the first 3 months of this year. Leverkusen, he's played a little bit better, I think, since the break. The one thing that gets me, people throwing these 100 million numbers out there, that's what he would have cost last summer, and people passed on him. I don't know that his stock has risen this summer. I don't know, if maybe he makes a contribution to Germany at the Euro. That might be a game changer. I don't even know if we're going to have a European Championship, frankly. So, tremendous player, one to watch, but 100 million seems a little bit steep. And I think from Leverkusen's perspective, you're better off hanging on to him another year, let him grow further, and then selling him for money. Sell Bailey instead.
Plenty of rumours, I'm sure, for us to discuss over the next few days. You can check us out over on Transfer Talk on the website.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.